Yo guys, I'm Niek from the Produce School and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video I'm going to teach you how to make a drop like Tchami Rainforest. We normally know Tchami because of his hard-hitting future house and bass house, but this time we went a little bit more mysterious, vibey and experimental, and I really liked the track. I'm going to try and recreate this one as good as possible, and I hope the end result will be good. For now, let's just dive straight into the video. So the first thing I did was creating the melody. The melody sounds like this. The melody is really catchy and I really love this one. I'm using two different leads. We made them by ourselves and they came pretty close to the original, I must say. They are also in the redemption bundle, so if you want to check that out, go to the link in the description. For now, I'm going to explain you guys preset. The sound is made in Serum and I'm going to explain it right now. On oscillator A and B we have an analog BD sign with a wavetable position put to the right fully. This gives the sound a little bit more harmonics than just a regular like analog BD sine, which is just a regular sine wave. Now it gives you a little bit more of harmonics. We shaped LFO1 like this, pretty easy shape, nothing too crazy going on right there. And in the warp section we selected the option bend plus minus and we dragged LFO1 into the bend plus minus section. We also dragged LFO1 to the level. This will make like the level follow the LFO, simply said, and it will make the sound a bit more clean. On oscillator B we have also an analog BD sign, but this one is pitched up 1 octave, and on the warp section we have the sync mode enabled. The sync mode is also really cool and you can really play around with that if you want to create crazy sounds. Also this one is linked to the level. Then on the filter section we have an MG Low 12 filter, which is actually also quite an easy filter, just the LFO1 linked to that filter, and the filter is applied on oscillator A and B. The drive is on around 42% and it just gives a little bit of distortion before going into the actual FX section where we're going to head into right now. Oh, and first I want to explain the envelope 1, which is a very short envelope with some attack. Also nothing too crazy going on. We put on a lot of effects on this, for example this hyper with the LFO1 linked to the mix as well, and some dimension expander, which is just very low in size and mix. For the distortion we went with the asim distortion. We selected the pre-post distortion and shaped like this little thing here like this. The drive is set to 50% and the mix is set to the full 100%. The chorus, nothing too crazy going on right there as well. The compressor, we used a multiband compressor and turned down the threshold a little bit. Multiband compressor is basically just an OTT if I'm correct. Then another MG Low 6 filter to make the sound a little bit more clean. A reverb, which we're not going to use right now, but I just want to demonstrate the sound to you guys with reverb. And an EQ, which basically does not that much. So the preset actually sounds like this. But I'm going to take off the reverb because there are 2 lead layers. I want to do it manually because I want to keep the reverb very clean, so I put the same reverb on both of the leads. Before I forget, we also linked LFO2, which is just a basic triangle shape, to the fine tune on both oscillators to give it a bit of a nasty detuned vibe. The second sound is basically the same sound, but in this case we pitched up oscillator A 1 octave and oscillator B is on 0 octave, and that's basically the only difference, and it sounds like this. Together they now sound like this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some sidechain and some reverb to the mixer bus of the 2 leads. I went for the second preset in Niek Romero's Kickstart, which is the classic chain, and the mix is to around 88%. For the reverb I used the Raum VST from Native Instruments, which was free for a limited time, but at the moment I guess it's not for free anymore. I really like the character of this reverb, and the reverb on the lead sounds like this. Next thing we're going to do is add a delay to the mixer bus, and we're just going to use Fruity Delay 2 for that. Put down the input and feedback volume a little bit and just keep the time on the regular one. Select invert and you're ready to go. For the first lead I did some EQing with the Fruity Parametric EQ2. On this one I just cut out all the frequencies to 200 Hz. And on this one I did it as well as some resonant cuts, because the sound is quite heavily distorted and that brings some very nasty resonant frequencies, but we got rid of that in this EQ, and I also boosted some of the highest frequencies to give it a bit more of character. The next plugin I'm going to apply on this is the OTT with the depth put to 50%, and it sounds like this. I also added a compressor to make the sound a little bit more tight. And last but not least, I make the sound a little bit less white with the isotope ozone manager. Just pull down the width to around -40 or something. Just do what sounds good. Preset will sound like this. I'm going to copy this mixer track and I'm going to paste it into the second lead. As they are almost identical, I feel like this is possible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the ozone imager for a stereo enhancer, and I'm going to put the phase offset to the right a little bit and the stereo separation to the plus side a little bit, and this will make the sound more stereo. And now we have a lead that's more mono and we have a sound that's more stereo, so we have the full spectrum covered. Together they will sound like this. I also made the bass already and it sounds like this. I have 3 layers, all serums, all from the Redemption bundle, and I'm going to explain them one by one. So the first layer is just a pretty basic sub bass. It has some tube distortion on it and is filtered after that, and it sounds like this. Another thing that makes this bass better is the envelope 2, which is very short, linked to the chorus pitch, and now it has a bit of punch to it, and that really finishes off the sub bass. The next sound is basically 2 basic shapes set to the square wave. Oscillator B is pitched up 7 semitones, and on this one we also had a super short envelope linked to the chorus pitch of oscillator A. Then envelope 1, which is shaped like this, very basic, is linked to the band 24 filter over here, and this filter is applied to oscillator A and B, and that's basically already it for the oscillator section. We also added a noise, just a glass lid 4, which is just a standard serum noise. Everyone has this one, so I really like the texture of that one. If you want to check that one out, it's right here at glass lid 4. On this one we have some dimension expander, some tube distortion and some EQ, just to cut out some of the highs. Nothing crazy going on right here. The last bass is to add some punch to the whole bass. It's a basic shape, just analog sine, pitched up 7 semitones, and again to get the punch there is this envelope linked to the chorus pitch. The second oscillator is pulled down 1 octave and it's the add seconds wavetable with the wavetable position to 120. Then we have this envelope 3, pretty short, linked to the MG low 12 filter, which is again linked to the oscillator A and oscillator B. Then the FX section is quite the same again. Some dimension expander, a multiband compressor, and a very short reverb. Together they now unmixed sound like this. For the sidechain I want to keep the mix for the sub bass on 100%. I also added a camel crusher and a glue to the sub bass. The camel crusher just makes the sound a little bit more fat, and the glue makes sure that all the notes in the sub bass are on the same volume, because on the sub bass it's a lot of times that some notes are louder than the others. This compressor just tightens the sound up and the volumes will be more dynamic. On the next bass we also did some EQing, very few resonant frequency cuts, and a low cut on this one because it had a lot of lows and I don't want it to interfere with my sub bass. And then I added a stereo enhancer, which might seem pretty weird on a bass, but Tchami also used quite a stereoist bass, and I tried to recreate that with this. Make sure you keep your sub bass in mono. That's just a standard rule that you have to follow, because if you put your sub bass in stereo, this will completely ruin your mix. But mid basses and high basses can easily be put in stereo if done correctly. So I put the phase offset a little bit to the right and the stereo separation a bit to the plus side. For the next bass I actually did kind of the same thing, so I'm not going to explain it once again. Together the bass now sounds like this. In combination with the leads it sounds like this. I also made a drum pattern and it sounds like this. It's basically a very short kick from the Redemption bundle, a 2-clap layer, a groovy hi-hat loop which I made from hi-hats from the Redemption bundle as well, a drum loop which is from the Garrix pack. It's a shaker kind of drum loop, and some FX, and then together it sounds like this. It's very simple, but it works just almost perfectly with the leads and the bass. For the rest, this track is not really that complicated, and the track is basically not that complicated, and we actually already have the finished product right here. So I'm going to play it to you guys. I'm going to give away the FLP to 10 commenters, so make sure to leave a nice comment. If you want to check out the Redemption bundle, head over to the link in the description as well. You will find all the information about the sample pack which you need. For now I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.